Chapter 30. Those 3 days Double was away were the longest of the summer and my life. I didn't let Marty out of my sight. I had him carrying peach buckets to the table stand. He lugged bag after bag of waste fruit to the mulch locker. He hauled pails and pails of water to Mom and me as we moved a bunch of baby pines from the woods down to the welcome sign where the hose didn't reach. If it had a handle on it, Marty could carry it. Mom hadn't said boo to me since the mess with Rosie and the ditch, and most of all Buck. She'd landed a job at Costco Lawn and Garden. Her shift didn't start till 8 a.m., but she was out of the house by 6 to avoid me. I don't know where she went, because even the church didn't open until 7:30. But now she seemed to have cooled off a little with the weather. We were looking at low 70s and a nice breeze as the sun went down. Mom, please don't take him to auction, I said. Put some more mulch in, she said. Renz, I just don't know how it ends. You know, he's going to hurt somebody bad someday. It isn't fair to him putting him in situations where he can get into trouble. So we kill him then? I said. Yep, that'll be the best thing for him. And the fact that we'll get $700 for his meat is beside the point. You don't think I know he's family now? Look at him hauling that water down there, wagging his fanny all over the place. He breaks my heart. I want him to win, you know. I do. I don't want him to die. I just don't know how it ends, is all I'm saying. She slapped the dirt off her hands and went up to the house. I cleaned up and grabbed the mail from the box. I got a letter. My heart rate doubled in a beat because it had to be from Pal. Except it wasn't. It came without a return address or even a message. It was just a picture of a pig midway through the slaughter line. After Mom went to bed, I got onto her computer and tortured myself by looking at Pal's Instagram again. She posted shots of the musicals she was doing. The costumes and sets could have been for movies. Perfect lighting, cast and crew laughing away, and in the middle of it all was Pal the star. I wanted her to succeed. I just couldn't believe she had stopped talking to me. After all these years of being best friends, how could she forget about me so fast? Marty put his hoof in my lap and licked me right on the mouth. But that just made everything worse because I knew he was leaving too. And soon. He was looking up at me in that way he did when he imprinted on me, or whatever it was he did that first night in the barn, when he just flat out decided we were going to be friends. From then on, that pig wanted nothing more than to love me and to have me love him back. He really was just plain true, and I couldn't figure out a way to save him. That night I dreamed my dad was still alive. After all, there was no gravestone for him. He was off living with Hannah, overseas in a city. In my dream, Hannah was tall and pretty, dark eyes, dark hair, with one of those smiles that made you do a double take, a real smile. They had a son. He looked like me, but a lot better looking, and thin, of course. Dad just hadn't been able to make himself come back to a quiet life on a peach farm, after all the things he and Hannah had seen over there together. The life or death close calls. He had to be with somebody who had lived with that danger and lived through it with him. Somebody who knew what he knew, that every minute counted. The dream was so real, I woke up mad. He wasn't my hero anymore. All these years, he'd never wanted to know about me or even give me a call now and then. I'm not saying I needed to hear from him every night, but couldn't he have checked in on my birthday to tell me he hoped all my wishes came true, or even one of my wishes come true? But then I remembered it was only a dream. My dad died in the war. He was a hero, my hero. But Hannah was real too. Double told me as much. I had to know. What was the story with Hannah? I was at the kitchen table, Bella and Marty asleep at my feet when Mom came down for breakfast. I made the coffee for you, I said. I smelled it, she said, fixing herself a cup. Thank you, sweetheart. You look worn out. Did you sleep at all? I don't think so, I said. Did you? She shook her head. She sat down. So? She said. So? I said. Bella and Marty jumped and barked and groinked. Double was pulling up in the driveway. I let Bella and Marty out to say hi. I followed them to help Double with his backpack. He stepped out of the truck, tanned from a couple of days in the North Carolina mountains. He held up a takeout bag from Ricky's all-night truck stop. I got us some hush puppies, he said. Marty ran up to Double to give a big fat hello after 3 days of missing him. He tackled Double hard. Double fell back and cracked his head on the step up to the driver's seat. He landed with a thud, and then his body got still. Daddy, Mom said. Daddy? Double? I shook him, and he was loose-limbed all the way, like only a dead man can be. Double, I said. Renzo, get that pig away from my father. Shoo, Marty, get out of here. I kept shaking Double, and there was no response. Just nothing. Chapter 31, Double's knee. Double was almost awake by the time the ambulance came up the driveway. The EMTs took him out on a stretcher. His foot was sticking out like God had put it on sideways. I rode with him in the back of the ambulance. Mom rode up front with the driver. She was so upset they thought it might be better to keep her away from Double. Or maybe they were trying to keep her away from me. Double patted my hand and closed his eyes and said what he always said. Don't worry, son. It'll be all right. 2 hours later, Double was in a pre-surgery bed and on some medicine that made him dreamy. His knee had finally given out and they were going to replace it. Mom paced the halls on the phone with the insurance company, or maybe her church friends. I was glad she was talking to anybody but me. I lucked out, huh? Double said. I'm going to get a brand new knee out of this one, Renz. Hey, bud, I've been thinking a lot about that talk we had before I left for Chimney Rock. You're going to find out about your dad sooner or later, probably sooner. I talked with your mom and she agrees it's time you know the truth. Now, son, I want you to be ready because it's a hard truth. What truth isn't, I wondered. I want you to know your dad will always be a hero to me, and here's why. There was a man who used to beg out front of Walmart, a vet who'd had his legs taken from him. He'd wheel up to you, stick his filthy coin cup in your face, and shake it until you gave him something. By way of thanks, he'd curse you and then wheel himself straight to the beer case. Oh, but he was a loud-mouthed drunk, a profoundly angry man. I'm sure you can understand. Well, your dad was working seasonal there at the Wall over Christmas, and he took in that poor man and got him connected with an apartment, helped him find a job, too. He got him right, you know, right with himself. Today, he manages the nursery supply. Mr. Santarocco? I said. Yep, he owns part of that place now as well. I had wondered why Mom didn't go straight to him for a job instead of asking around for somebody who'd get her an interview at Costco. Not to mention she had to drive a half an hour farther to get there. But now I knew why. Mr. Santarocco would only remind her of my dad. That's the hardest thing, Double said, to take the one who doesn't seem to fit in, who needs somebody to see past what he looks like or acts like, into the spirit. That's what your dad did for Mr. Santarocco. And son, that's what you did for Marty. And I never want you to regret it, okay? Double, I am so sorry. Stop that. I'm just sad because of what he missed out on, your dad, seeing how great you turned out. Now, I don't want you to worry about a thing. I'll be home in a day or two and we'll figure this all out. I promise. Chapter 32, The Zoo. They told us Double was going to be in surgery for a while, and maybe we should head down to the cafeteria. We sat by the courtyard window. The glare outside made my head ache. I wasn't hungry, but I ate to keep from having to look Mom in the eye. After a long while, she said, "Oh, I forgot. Pal texted while I was on the phone with Mrs. McGrath." "Pal?" I said. "She wanted me to have you call her." Paloma Lee was pretty much the last person I wanted to talk with right then, probably calling to tell me about the ukulele boy. She'd fallen in love with him, and now her heart was broken, and she wanted good old fat Renzo's shoulder to cry on. "I'll call her later," I said. "Renzo, look at me." Double could have broken his neck, and then where are we with a quadriplegic in the house? Renz. Here it was, the verdict. Marty has to go. I'm so sorry. Mrs. McGrath's cousin has a friend who owns a petting zoo up in Michigan. I sent pictures and told the people how you trained him, how he was raised in a house, and how he loves people. They said he's ideal. He'll be appreciated for who he is up there. He'll be safe. I can train him not to jump up on people. Renz. No. We don't have a lot of time here, and this is the best I can come up with on short notice. I looked into some animal sanctuaries, but they're full, and the wait lists go on for months. And there are no guarantees he'll ever be placed. If we don't do this now, they may very well put Marty down. Who? I said. The animal control people. Mr. Lee called. The hospital had to file a report with the police. Whenever an animal causes bodily injury, the authorities make a site visit. Mr. Lee says there will be no way they'll let Marty stay with us in the house, not after what happened to Double. So if they don't take him away and we're allowed to keep him, what do we do? Put him out in the barn by himself, all alone? No Bella to cuddle, no you? His heart would break. He'd forever be wondering what he did to make you hate him. I'll sleep in the barn with him, I said. Mom, please. We're very likely going to have to sell Maple Clutch, she said. Then what happens to Marty? To find a landlord who will let us bring a 400-pound pig into his building? I'm begging you, please don't fight me on this. I'm just so worn out over it. At the petting zoo, he'll be around other animals and kids all day. Isn't that the best plan, if not the only one? I couldn't match her stare. I'd looked into petting zoos back in the spring before Mom said Marty could stay, when I was scrambling for any way to keep him off the auction block. The problem was, you can't put pigs into the same pen when they haven't grown up together. They'll fight to the death sometimes. I had read that. So Marty would be alone all day? And if a kid jumped the petting fence and then Marty knocked her over, they'd have to put him down for sure. I'd also checked out the animal sanctuaries, and Mom wasn't lying when she said that finding one with room for a 400-pound pig could take a long time. Renz, Mom said, maybe you want to go home and spend time with him. They're coming tomorrow, the petting zoo people, to pick him up. Tomorrow? I want to get Marty out of Maple Clutch before animal control comes to investigate, she said. Go on now, okay? I'll keep you posted about Double. The doctor told me he does 10 of these operations a week and we have nothing to worry about. You have bus money? Yeah, I think so. Renz, you understand that it has to be this way, don't you? I forced myself to nod, but there was no chance I was letting Marty go to a zoo in Michigan, where he'd never see Bella again, where he'd never see me. He would forever wonder what he had done to make me send him away. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I sure knew what I wasn't going to do. The petting zoo people, they're giving you money, right? I said. $1,500, and thank the Lord. What, you want me to turn it down? I'd give them money if I had any, if it would keep Marty safe. The way you're looking at me, Renz, I don't know, you break my heart. You break mine, too, lying to me all these years. I grabbed the tray and made to leave, but she snatched my arm. Lying to you? About Dad, about this Hannah person. She frowned. We'll talk about it, him, her, when the time is right. I've been hearing the same story from you my whole life, which is no story. I know what happened anyway. He didn't get killed. He ran off with Hannah, and you're still jealous about it. There, now you don't have to worry about telling me anymore. He would never do that, she said. He wasn't that type. I can't have you think that way about him. Hey, look at me. You don't know him. And I never will, thanks to you, I said. He didn't leave us for anybody else. She got a hold of my hand and squeezed it. He's gone, Renz. He's dead. He shot himself. Wait, say that again? Wait, don't. Wait. The cobbler I had eaten was coming up a lot faster than I had put it down.